Bye.
Oh,
Okay.
just enjoy your earring today.
Okay, we are live. Hello, good evening, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to this inaugural show.
Okay, we are live.
I am.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay.
How are you today? Welcome to.
Okay, sorry. I'm feeding up somewhere. Okay, so welcome everyone to the show. I'm super excited to be with you. Sorry, it's supposed to be an all women's affair. So if you ask me, I don't know what I'm doing with them, but I love women, and they call me woman rapper when I used to be in school. When secondary school, they used to call me BLO. BLO means Balogula Yobiri kind of thing, So I'm excited to be with you guys live, and I'm super excited to be here. Okay, so today we're looking at a child and trauma, and that's what we're looking at because a lot of things has happened over time. In the last 2 weeks in Nigeria, I'm sure that many parents themselves are traumatized, especially by the shooting that happened at Lekki Axis, and up till now, we're still looking for the soldiers who carried out the shooting. And in the midst of all of this, a lot of children play games on their children's a lot of children play games on their parents' phone. I remember that my wife said to me that the moment she told my children about what was happening in Nigeria, my son couldn't sleep. All he saw was a video and he couldn't sleep. He was just crying to say what will happen to their children, the family of the people that were killed and all. So I had to take him through a session, because children process trauma differently. So today we're going to be looking at, your child and trauma and what you need to do. And trust me, I have two of the best hands in the house tonight when it comes to child development in Nigeria. Everything that's got to do with child parenting, therapy. The two people I have in the studio tonight are the two of the best brains, and I welcome Ronke Posh. Ronke Posh. Everybody knows Ronke Posh, except you are not a human being. you know, Ronke is my sister. She's my sounding board. She's my policeman in everything. English police, writing police, fashion police, friendly police, terrorist police. Ronke is just everything to me. She's a lady I love so much. If you're looking for someone who's got my back all the time, then Ronke. If you want to fight Ronke, just go and talk rubbish about me. Then she's going to be on your case. Thank you, Ronke, for joining us. It's nice having you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, and I have another person. This one is like my daughter. She's my daughter actually. She was my school daughter when I was in secondary school, and we lost contact, and I discovered her again. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant mind. Someone who has experiential knowledge about what we're talking about, and she's helped loads of people, across board. I love her so much, and we talk a whole lot. Amina is with us. Amina, you're welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. It's really nice to be here.
Okay, good to be with you. Unfortunately or fortunately, I found myself on this show today. So I don't know what to do. I don't know how to run away. Okay. So when we talk about child and trauma, let me start with Amina. You have been through you have been through trauma before. So you want to share your personal story and let us know, what exactly is this? When people talk about trauma, they just say, it's not a big deal. Everybody can, just leave children, let them, they will recover. What exactly is trauma and how do children process trauma?
Okay, so I'm going to take it from the part where you said a lot of people think that because children are resilient, they can actually overcome it easily without help, and you just leave it to chance for them to outgrow it. But the truth of the matter is, of course, children process trauma differently, but some of it sticks. So for my personal story was the trauma of losing my dad. I remember very vividly the day he died, even though I couldn't until later on much tell that was what was happening. I remembered that I remember the clothes that my dad's friend who was with him when he died was wearing, how bloodstained it was. I remember vividly how my mom took the whole thing. I can even tell you the kind of things she said while she heard the news and everything, and the entire week when I had to spend away with her and all that. And I remembered the point at which I began to recognize what I was feeling as trauma, whereby I can't, till, till a certain point in my life, I can't hear certain noises. Even if we are two people at home, and I know that it's just the two of us at home, you can't sneak up on me. Basically, because of the way I'd had to internalize that process of knowing that anything can happen at any time was just so sudden. And, for a long time, my parent, my mom, my siblings, everybody was trying to protect me from the knowledge of my dad's loss. So they'll say things like, "Oh, your dad traveled." I was 4 when my dad died. So they'll say things like, "Your dad traveled," and they'll fabricate a lot of stories. I even became very good, very adept of telling stories of where my dad is, when he's going to come back, what I'm going to expect when I see him, and things like that. But the day I would hear the actual story of his death was I was in my teen years, and everybody expected me to just hear it and not have to. But it was like having to lose not just the real person, but losing the memory of a person that I imagined in my life for so long. And I lost not just the person, but I lost the memory. I lost so I had to grieve all over again. I had to really start processing again. And I actually didn't start processing until 5 or 6 years ago, really, because I thought I was over it. But I would remember that each time somebody goes away from me without telling me how long they're going to be, I get easily upset. If my mom goes and travels maybe to see her own mom or anything, and she's not back at the time that she tells us that she's going to be back, I will be the only person waiting for her outside, waiting for her to come home. And then in secondary school, of course, there was no easy GSM or phone that you could call and tell you, "Oh, this is what is happening, there's traffic somewhere," and everything. Up until 5, 6 years ago, I do not like people just leaving me without a goodbye. So those were part of the outcome of my own trauma, of having to realize that I hadn't healed completely. And this was everybody just assuming because of how long it had been. My dad died in 1987. You can imagine how long that was. Up until now, and then you now feel like you had to grieve, you had to actually grieve. So for children, it's not about resiliency, it's about process. What process have we put in place for children to actually deal with the experiences that we are exposing them to? We cannot assume that nature will take its course. Nurture also has a lot to do in this case.
Wow. Well, I mean that's so profound, and I'm learning. I remember that I think about 6 years ago or 7 years ago, I noticed that once it was 9 p.m., if I was anywhere outside my house, once it was 9 p.m., I became petrified. I'll begin to have panic attacks. I didn't know what it was. It's just been like that for years until I went through therapy and I processed it, and it dawned on me that when I was between the age of 6 and 8, I used to follow my sisters for SU meetings, and they used to do a lot of deliverance prayers there. And during the deliverance prayers, they would say that when the demon left the person they were casting the demon from, it will enter the person who was not spiritual. So on my way home, every time they cast out demons, I'll be processing it in my mind that 7 demons have entered me today. And those days they will show us burning hell to teach us about hellfire. And that movie traumatized me. And because I didn't process it, it affected me to my adulthood till I was already in my 30s before I was able to get help. Now, Ronke Poch, you are a school owner, you are an educationist, you are a parenting coach, one of the best in the country. You work with children and their parents. I'm sure you've had children who lost their parents in your school, or children who are going through some kind of trauma. And I know you educate a lot of parents. These are days that parents want to show their children everything and everything. Oh, come and see, they are killing people. How far is too far? And what should parents be wary of, when it comes to sharing trauma? I've seen a number of movies, American movies, and I noticed that during accident scene, the first thing they do is to cover the children's face. Our movies are not like that in Nigeria. A child sees everything. Here, you know, how far is too far? What do we need? What do parents need to really begin to do, or what should they know when it comes to how children process trauma, and how does it affect a child's education?
Okay, so thank you and good evening, everyone. Thank you for that. So one of the things that I did at Le Poche School was to try and manage the situation the best way that we could, and that involved having assemblies and also communicating with the parents. I also wrote an ebook, and if anyone wants it, just reach out to me. I'll get it to you. It's a 20-page document, and it just helps you manage how you can talk about the crisis and all the things that happen in the aftermath of the protest, the killing, the shooting. Most of the children, so a child is a child that is under 18. And you find that there are movies that are age 16, age 13. However, many parents, even African Magic, they allow their children to watch such things. All these juju, they're killing each other. The law of parents, when we watch it, you see that their children are there, and they don't think it's a big deal. They believe it's part of our culture, and the children should know it. However, these things have an effect on the children. So how far is too far? These children, most of them, maybe the 17, 18-year-olds, and even at that, I would still not want to show my 17-year-old child pictures of people shooting other people, because it's not necessary. Because you don't want to traumatize the children. The children are living in a lot of fear, and a lot of parents need to understand that their children are living in fear. I've been a victim of trauma as well when I moved to Nigeria. About 8 years ago, we had armed robbers come to the house, and my husband was badly beaten. He was almost killed. I was tied up. We were robbed. We took everything from the house, to taking us to the school to rob everything, that, you know, just clear things out. I couldn't sleep for like a year, and I'm an adult. If a pin drops, I'll be traumatized. I'll be scared. My daughter didn't experience or see the armed robbers, but she saw the state at which her dad was, and she was frightened. And for a very, very long time, she was sleeping in her room. So this is me being an adult and being fearful. Even during this COVID-19, when I'm going out, and I hardly went out, so if I had to really, really go out, I'll notice that when I'm going out, my daughter would say, "Mommy, stay safe, be careful." You know, I knew that she was concerned that if I get the COVID-19, something happens to her mom and her mom passes away. That was her concern, and she's 14. So we must not assume that these children can handle it. Let's not assume it. So how far is too far? It's usually too far when you start going on about it. Sharing social media posts. When we had assembly at the Posh School, we told the children to stay away from social media. We don't expect them to be on social media, because this is it's the primary school realm. We don't expect them to be on social media, but we understand that parents can engage these children. A lot of those videos were sent by WhatsApp. Even some of them that I saw, it bothered me and still bothers me till this minute. So how far is too far? It's too far to show them anything. This is not their battle. We are fighting for us and our children, our children's children. It's nothing to do with them. Explain to them in the minutest, easy, child-centered way, because you can instill fear in their lives. You can cause them to be fearful. You can find that some children are urinating, they are staying in their room, they're having behaviors, they're behaving in a way that they don't normally behave, they're overeating, they are undereating, they need something for comfort or someone for comfort, they're sucking, and just doing other things that parents need to begin to notice as a result of what has happened. Even sometimes when I don't see graphic things, some of the time you're on your phone talking to your friend, or you're talking to your spouse or anybody in the house, and you're going on and on. You're replaying it in their head, in their mind. It can affect the brain of the child. It can introduce insecurity. And these are even some of the things that can happen now. How about later? Trauma later. Even at this age, when the armed robbers came to our house, I also then remembered that when we were in Kaduna many years ago, we had armed robbery, and I had forgotten about that. But guess what? When that happened, I revisited that journey. Even though that one, nothing happened, I wasn't beaten or anything, but obviously we were scared. I remembered. So what happens now It's like a program you're installing in the lives of your children. It stays with them. And this sort of things also can introduce violence in children, especially in a home where they are already violent. Mommy is beating daddy, daddy is beating mommy, a child is beating, everybody is beating each other. Then they're seeing how law enforcement are doing all this sort of. You are validating a culture of violence as well. So these are subliminal acts and subliminal things that are happening around. However, the impact can be very long term. We live in an environment where many people are angry. How many times you walk on the streets of Nigeria, go see somebody smiling and say, hey, hi, please, anybody? Do you see people, just saying hello to you, just like that? It's an angry nation. It's a hostile environment. You don't want to allow your children to join them because people are angry. We are trying to rebuild. So we rebuild. We start with a smile. We start with peace, giving our children that peace. So how far, too far, is just allowing these children to stay away from it completely. Please, 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 I urge you. It's nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them. Let them know about it. Let them just know that we are fighting for equality, justice, and then leadership. Model it in your home. Let them know this is what is going on. Model it in your home in the most basic way. You don't tell them that they're shooting, killing each other, and you should go outside now. They are telling everybody's job. You're just introducing fear in children. Please, 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 parents, I urge you, educators, I urge you, please don't do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronke. I'll stay with you a bit before I go to Amina. I don't know if you have noticed, if you tell many of the children to pray, I noticed that, almost every child I've asked to pray, their prayers are usually, God, don't let my father die. Don't let my mother die. Don't let my siblings die. And that worries me a lot, to say, why should a child be taught? I would have thought that a child would be praying, God, let me have my toy. Let me have my bicycle, my Christmas, whatever. Is Nigeria a traumatizing environment? And is this nation actually child friendly? Because I want us to dig deep into that. You are very heavy on this, and I know you are a plan B. We joke about it all the time. Do we value children? Do we value children in this country? And how can this environment actually mess up this? Because you think of children in the Boko Haram environment, for example. How can those children grow up into proper adults? You think of children who saw their mothers shot or their fathers shot, in front of them, everyone is just being violated at different, how does this affect the well-being of a child in this kind of environment?
Well, one can only guess because there's just too much going on. As you said, abuse is there. It's part of the culture. The abuse is part of the culture. Many, many women have been abused sexually, physically, verbally. It's natural. Many, many men have been hit, abused physically, violently. It is part of what happens in a developing country, in poor nations. It is part of what typically happens, and you find it in a lot of African countries if you do your research. It is very sad, and we're living in a hostile environment. I used to do a program called Living in a Hostile Environment. And Nigeria is a hostile environment, whether we like it or not. We struggle for the air to breathe, the road, the transport network, the education, the healthcare. We are struggling for everything. There's abuse all around. How can somebody grow up and be happy? How can somebody grow up and be happy? If a child has seen their mother or father being killed, how do they grow up? How do they even understand? How do they forgive? How do they learn to love? These are basic things that the child should know how to do. Children love each other by default. There's an example you always give, or God praise. There's an example you give where you say, if you have children from different nations, so Indian, American, Nigerian, different colors, green child, purple child, lilac child, put them together in one place, they will play. No one is going to say one is pink, one is blue, one is purple. They will play. But here, by default, that segregation is there, that tribalism is there. They have learned it right from when they were small. They learn it from their parents. How did the protest suddenly begin to turn into a tribal war? How? Yoruba something, Yoruba Shora or whatever they were saying. I can't remember that last one. I mean, can you remember when they're saying Yoruba Rodu?
But it's okay. Okay,
What
Yoruba
does
will know.
it do
Yes,
with
Yoruba
the
will know.
protest?
It's,
What does it
I
got to
don't
do
think
with
so.
the protest? So the typical child is in a violent environment. So when people are thinking, oh yeah, my own children, your own children, maybe the island of Lagos, the Cream de la Cream of Abuja, and some certain areas, you are still in the minority of the children. Your children are still in the minority, and those children are in the midst of children that are abused. And that is why it's so easier that a lot of those children are not streetwise. So they get raped easily, they get abused easily, they're not street smart. So many things. So we're transferring and transferring and transferring. Protecting your own children alone is not enough. You have to protect the children in the neighborhood. You have to speak up. You have to let people know the little that you know. It's not about perfection, because in preserving your child, you must preserve the children in the environment. You must volunteer to help all those children. How can we help a child who small children are being sexually abused in Nigeria over and over again? Small little children under 10, and they have to grow up happy, balanced, and stable, raise children, be a loving husband or loving wife to their children. How do they relate? All these things need to be learned. It's not a relearn thing. They need to start to know how to do it. But who is going to teach them in an environment like this? It's very sad, it's very pathetic, and it's very, very painful that children have not been allowed to be children. A child that the parents have been killed and have to fend for themselves, go and be fetching water, getting food, sleeping around just to get 100 naira to eat food, and all sorts of things. Even brothers sleeping with because I saw this home where they were all living in something that looked like a hut. They just put wrapper and all sorts of things, living together. Brothers and sisters sexually abusing each other. How do we teach those children the fundamentals of love, of humanity? How? Nigeria is messed up, and that's why I preach Plan B unapologetically. I love Nigeria. I came back to Nigeria because I love Nigeria and I want to do my bit. I don't want to sit in the diaspora and be dictating and say, why aren't we like that? So I'm here to do my bit. But I'm telling you guys, if you ain't working, I'm going to take my stuff. I have my passport and we get out of here. That is the plan. And if you are going to have a baby in this country, make sure that even if it's Ghana, go and have it. It's not a matter of faith now. Don't start all that, please. Because faith without act works is void. Make sure your child has a passport. Have that plan B for your child. Have plan B for education for your child. Have plan B for healthcare. Anything can happen in this country. Even if you have all the money in the world, if you have an accident, even getting out, if you have an accident, there's traffic on the road, you can't get to the airport. Only if you have a private jet to airlift you out. It's messed up. It's really, really messed up. So we have to just start from a circle of influence. Whatever we can do, we have to begin to do it. And the work is enormous. So people need to rise up. But the way it does family life engineering courses, it does courses all the time. Equip yourself and help people in your community, in your village. Help people start online. Do anything that you can, because it is a dire state. Because even if we have all the infrastructure that we need and all the money that we need in Nigeria, the minds of people are already messed up. They will still be sleeping with their children. They will still be sleeping with their domestic workers. They will still be doing, we are SARS. We're just saying people are SARS. We are the SARS. We are saying policeman is doing this. Yes, husband is sleeping with husband. Madam is seeing it and allowing it. Father is sleeping with daughter. Daughter is sleeping with all sorts of nonsense happening because people are traumatized. People are messed up in their psyche, and it needs to be fixed. It needs to be rewired.
Wow. This is heavy. Now, Amina, let me come to you. So a child has been through trauma. What should be our first response? What should we do to that? I mean, and you work in the NGO space, and you're also a professional. I mean, Ronke has raised a lot of dust in here. Father is sleeping with
myself.
Father is sleeping with daughter. Mother knows about it. Mother is quiet about it. Father is sleeping with the house help who is underage. Mother is keeping quiet. A child has lost a parent, and the only thing they say, oh, God has given, God has taken, just take it like that. What do we need to begin to do, as parents? When a child is going through trauma, a lot of parents don't even know that some children who bed wet is a reaction to trauma. They don't know, right? They will beat that child. They will still traumatize the child who has been traumatized because they can't read the sign. What do we need to begin to do as first responders, when it comes to trauma?
So the first thing we need to understand is this: we should stop normalizing pain. Pain is
Mm.
not a normal experience for any human being to go through. It's not that, okay, it's not, I mean, when she was talking, I almost teared up because I don't work in the NGO space for close to 10 years, and knowing the amount of contact I had with people who just assume that it is okay for your husband to sleep with your stepdaughter, for your husband to sleep with your daughter because he's your stepfather. It just makes me it makes me feel so. I got to a point where I had to just get out of, if not, my I felt my resilient power just going down and down and down because I just kept internalizing this. So we should really stop normalizing pain. We should begin with the fact that a child that wakes up crying is not a normal thing. I have a almost 3 year old daughter now, and she wakes up on a very good day. It is always with smiles, and that is the normal thing. Just like Ms. Wakaposh said, it is not normal for you to be going on the road and decide that the only way for you to resolve a traffic problem is by hitting your fellow person. This is as a result of the fact that we believe that the only way we can get correction done is when you inflict pain. The whole process of the Hentas protest itself was to inflict pain so that they can be changed. And look at how far that has gotten us. I remember in 1993 when M. Abiola's election was annulled. A lot of us are still living that trauma and we have not resolved it. This is what it has brought us to right now in the country. So if we really want to get real about this trauma and helping our children to understand it, we have to understand that pain is not a normal thing. Yes, it is necessary for people to develop the resilience, to develop the coping mechanism, but you cannot assume that pain is the only way for you to live. It is not normal. I say it again, pain is not the number one default mechanism of living. Second thing is for you to understand that your child is going through trauma is that trauma is defined as anything that threatens your peace of mind, your safety, or your security. Three things. All these three things have been threatened in the last couple of weeks. Not to mention the fact that we are just adjusting to the COVID news and getting back to a semblance of normalcy. And then this happened. So please tell me who in this country would not have felt traumatized. So what you need to see in your child is this, that whether they tell you how they are feeling or not, there are signs that you need to watch out for. A child who is normally an independent child and becomes clingy is actually reacting to what is going on. That is not the time for you to shut that child down and believe that that child is just unnecessarily clingy. A child that doesn't bedwet, like you said before, and starts to bedwet is actually a response to something. Every adult, in fact, I keep telling school owners this, that what you should look out for is that there's going to be an uprise in bullying. Because when you have all this anger, when you have all this unresolved emotions within you, and people keep telling you that it's okay, and it's not okay, you're going to look for a place to put it. And where else than for you to start trying to inflict the same pain on the person very close to you? There's going to be an uprising in bullying in schools. There's going to be an uprising in depression in schools. There's going to be an uprising in even teachers not relating properly with students.
Wow.
And these are the things that we should begin to start effecting our professionalism to ensure that we are actually tackling. And now back to the home. This is the time for you. If you haven't started your family meeting, I'm sorry, I don't know what you've been doing. You need to start actually having a concrete family meeting. Actually get your children to talk. Yes, I get the fact that some children would not want to talk about their trauma and what they are feeling. But if you provide a safe enough space where there is no judgment, where there is no harsh retribution, where you will go back and say, hey, that is how you said this while we're having a family meeting, they would always come back to you and tell you, Mommy, this is how I'm feeling. A few days ago, I actually had someone call me and say, you know what, I don't think I'm ready for exams. And she's going to be writing her NECO, she's supposed to be writing her NECO exams once they get back on. But the mental space is just not there because there's this unexplained fear. And of course, because I'm a professional, I can explain it. I can tell where it's coming from because she's been absorbing so much. She's been hearing a lot of people around her talking about these things without her understanding exactly what it is about. Without her understanding or having that space to process it. Oh, okay, so you block like you told or you block allowance. Oh, okay, and then they start to shoot. What happened? How do I do it? Blood or no blood, the sounds of gunshots in itself. I still remember when there was a protest for the annulment of the election in 1993. I remember where I was. I remember how MK Abdullah's house was not far from my own family house. My mom tried to put us in a bunker. We said, like, wanted to go and see. Till then, if I hear a bus going or if I hear an engine going post, I believe it's a gunshot, and I want to start running. These are not things that children should be exposed to at this time. But this is where we are, and what we need to understand that this is what they've been exposed to. What is the next thing we need to do? Get them to talk to you. If they can't talk to you, get them to talk to a professional. If you think that you can handle those alone, I'm sorry, but then you also need to check yourself. How are you handling your own trauma? What are the things you put in place for yourself to actually handle the trauma? Because you believe that you survived it in the last 10, 20 years doesn't mean that your children are equipped to actually survive it. Because I've seen people talk very funny, tell me that, oh, because like they play video games, and they just video games. So why shouldn't they be able to cope? You have forgotten that even the brain cannot differentiate between reality and fiction. And because you've exposed them to such a traumatic game in itself, you've only put them in a state of heightened alertness, whereby the hormones in their system, the cortisol in their system is working overtime for a very long time. So they are really, really, really stressed. And nothing creative, nothing joyful comes out from a stressed system.
Wow. Okay, thank you very much, Amina. Nikki Ajayi is saying, I think those prayer points stem from what we see here, perceived in our minds. I mean, talking about children praying about, don't let my father die. Ego Godson is saying, children learn by observation. Osi Godson is saying, is there any positive learning from trauma? Okay, I'm going to ask Ronkeda, is there any positive learning from trauma? We should, Vicky Omoni is saying, we should not normalize pain, and we should provide safe space, enough space for family meetings. Okay, please, let's keep the comments coming. If you're on YouTube, keep the comments coming. I'll ask if you have any question. And if you're on Facebook also, let's have your question. Now, so Ronke, someone is asking, is there any positive learning from trauma? That's a question. And while you're answering that question, I wanted to also touch a bit on the educational system. I mean, we cannot talk about trauma without talking about people who are going to write exams. Children are supposed to write exams. In this year alone, they've been in and out of school. They don't even know whether they are in school. They are not out of school. What is the psyche of the stakeholders in the educational sector, the people determine work? You know, so this minute children should not come to school. Next minute they should come to school. Are they, what is there even a term? This term, you know, how does that affect the child, and what do we need to do? And now the third question, I'll ask that later, which is about parenting, because that's one of your forte. So is there any positive learning from trauma, and what's your take on the educational sector, educational system, and how it affects the childhood trauma?
Okay, thank you. So is there any positive learning from trauma? Let's look at it in a picture. Let's think about it. It's a negative emotion. If you've been beaten badly or raped, would you be looking for a positive lesson from it? That's not the first thing that you want to do. However, as you journey along the healing process, that is where the lessons come from. The act in itself cannot have a positive lesson. The act in itself. So picture somebody just witnessing somebody being shot in the head. Clearly, you can't find a positive lesson from it. However, just like I said, that I created an ebook for parents to help discuss this process with their children, and for the older ones can read it and they can have like the family time Amina talked about. You can use it at that family time. The lessons. Now, depending on how gory the thing that your child has seen, or depending on the amount, the content, I always recommend that whatever you tell a child must be in a child-friendly and age-appropriate way. Then you can have conversations, learning points, learning moments, teachable moments from what has happened. But in itself, it's a negative experience, and it's nothing positive is tacked in it in itself. But as you go along, you can use it to teach them justice, equality, how they can do the how they can protest peacefully, what the government is like, what it should be like. You can compare countries, you can talk about leadership, you can bring out anything from that negative topic in itself. I hope that answers the question. Now, the second one was the exams that our children are having, particularly the NECO at this time, the additional bodies, the ministries of education, and all those that you have. Now, my own school of thought is always different, and I'm not always popular when I say some of these things, and it doesn't really matter. What is important is that we must understand that exam is just a type of assessment. It is not the end all and be all. If you don't do exams, you will not die. There are people that are successful and they've never done one exam, any exam in their life. They go on with their lives. They created businesses. They've done so many things. They don't pass exams. So we must stop putting exams on our head and assuming that we need these exams. We don't, dear Nigerians. We don't need this exam. Put me in it anywhere. Our children are traumatized, and what we're thinking about is exam. Oftentimes because they have paid and we will have to refund the money. Let's face it. If they haven't paid the money, people keep their children at home. Now, when it comes to that money and they say e-learning and blah, 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 when you want to collect the money, we have every technological, even the one I never heard before in my life, of collecting the money. Press this, press this, the money will just come out of the account. Press that, something, I think the payment method is that. Something, they will just collect your money. But when it's time to allow the children to learn from home and stuff like that, we don't know what to do. We don't have the funds. We don't have the things. But anyway, let me not even start. Not even all those palliatives that we even. Let me just leave that one night. Those children don't need those exams. Those children can be assessed at another time in a different way. They have continuous assessments. They can predict grades. Even when I did my A-levels in the UK, we had predicted grades already, even before we start the exams. We are capable of doing these things. You can predict a grade for a child. It's not everybody that even does exams. You can do an exam and pass. When I did my A-levels, I was predicted all A's. Did I come out with all A's? I didn't, because even the night before my A-levels, I was in the club. So really, what are grades really? Because passing an exam is state-dependent. Learning is state-dependent. If two children go to for an exam, and mommy slaps one because that one did not come out into the car early, and the other one, mommy was supporting and boosting, and daddy was saying, you're going to do it, you do it. That revision that we did, and they boost the morale, they affirm the child. Who is going to do better? Is it the one that is already, and even if that one is smart, but the state at which you find that child, that one must be crying in the class or emotional about what has happened, and then you grade the child, the child does not know it. Forgetting, not factoring putting into it, factoring the,
Exactly.
not putting into, not considering the fact that that child has been traumatized in the morning before the exam. So passing an exam is state dependent. All these things that are happening now, if a child witnessed shooting, for example, and a lot of children would have from windows, we saw a lot of people recorded from windows. If that really happened, even though they're denying it, these videos were around. If those children saw it and couldn't sleep at night, for example, and then the next day they have to go and write exams. Which exam are they writing? What are they writing? Can we find other ways? Can we stop being so archaic? And can we stop putting this exam and certification? It's affecting the whole country. Because even recruiters, even big organizations, they go on about, how old are you? And how many days did you have in your work? And forgetting that half of the population buy grades anyway. So what are we talking about? They will sit down them and many teachers will dictate the answers to them. They will tell them the answers. We know it's happening. We talk about practice. People say, is it not normal? Didn't you do it? What's the big deal? And we are killing our children just so that they can go and do one exam. We are lying to ourselves. What are we pretending not to know in Nigeria? Why are we fooling ourselves? Who are we even fooling? Who are we fooling? So the sooner we wake up, because the worst thing that can ever happen is to lie to yourself as a nation or as an individual. If someone is lying to you, it's one thing. But if you are lying to yourself, you know the truth, and you're lying to yourself, then you are your own worst enemy. And that is exactly what is happening in our case in Nigeria. We're shooting ourselves, we're killing ourselves, we're making our children go for exams, while we know that it adds no significant value right now. It doesn't. We must find other ways. It's doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you, Ronke. As usual, I'm going to come back to you with a question on parenting shortly. But Amina, in the midst of all of this pain, all of this trauma, I mean, I am an apostle of plan B, like Ronke, but not everyone can do plan B, right? How do we keep a child sane, at least to the barest minimal level, based on the environment we find ourselves? And I'll give you a data. The latest World Population Index showed that the 12 worst countries to live in on the planet right now, 11 of the worst 12 are African countries. Now, three things are common to the 11. One, they have no priority for girl-child education. They all practice girl-child marriage. Number two, they don't believe in gender equality. And number three, they are all countries of big men and very poor system, poor educational system, poor educational standard. But in the midst of all of this, children are still going to grow. And maybe even the leaders we hate today, we need to begin to investigate how they were raised. They could have been children who were traumatized, who by the power of the gun found themselves in power, and they are traumatizing the entire nation, because you can't give what you don't have. If you are not a peaceful person, you can't give peace to anyone. So what do you think, parents can start to do? How can we even protect the sanity of children? Practical tips that people can begin to do right away, after this meeting.
Okay, so first thing you need to do is to let your child be your child. Let your child be a child in terms of play. Play is very, very important. We are so keen, just like Ms. Runkwepos, we are so keen on grades and the next level and the next level and the next level. This is the time for your child to actually play. From 0 to 8, 9 years, please let them play to their hearts content. Let them tell you things, however politically incorrect it is. Let them say what is on their mind. And then you can begin to actually correct whatever it is that you want to correct. The second thing I want us to understand is this, that children can only take from what they see around them. They can only be what you. It would be unfair for you to assume that your child is going to.
Okay, looks like I'm in.
Sorry, okay, I think I'm back. Sorry
Yes,
about
you're
that.
back.
Okay, so it would be unfair. It would be unfair for you to expect your child to do well when you are not doing so well yourself. So, practical tip number one is allow your child to play. Allow them for their environment to be safe in terms of how you relate to them. We are so as parents. As a teen coach, one of the things that actually got me into FSEC and family systems engineering was actually the fact that I get clients telling me to fix their children. Meanwhile, they're not ready to change themselves. And it's just wrong. There's nothing wrong with your child, except that you are trying to deceive yourself. So until we are ready as parents to do the work that is needed for our children to grow, nature and then to nurture them in terms of allowing ourselves to actually be kind. I know we are going through a lot. I know traffic is bad in Nigeria. I know that the government is not doing as much as we expect. I know that we are barely making ends meet. But does that mean your child has to live in a state of fear and lack of connection with you as a parent? So if you really want to help your child, you need to actually examine what you are doing as a parent. The third tip is after this meeting, please, 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 and please hug, as in hug, however old they are, hug your children, hug them. We are so into this patriarchal sense of parenting that we seem to think they don't need us. I don't know where we got that from. They do. They may not tell you in so many words, but they do. They need you to look them in the eye and to affirm them, to tell them that you see them, to tell them that you love them, to tell them that you can actually see the progress they are making day in, day out. Let there be a day, for instance, start with a day on how, when you do not complain about anything your child is doing well. Start with that. Start with the fact that you actually begin to see how good they are in their own sense of self, not attached to any condition because they actually cleaned the room properly or they picked up outside themselves. Just because they are human beings, begin to relate to your child how you would want to be respected. Because after all is said and done, the respect that you are craving for is only given when you actually treat the next person with respect. And they are human beings. You can't create them. So why would you treat them less than a human being? Why would you talk down low on them like they are just a sub version of yourself? They are not. They are their own person. So hold your children, talk to them, look them in the eye, and actually be a part of their lives. Not the assumed one, not complaining about, oh, they're spending so much time on the phone or something. If they're spending so much time on the phone, that means what they're spending time on is much more interesting than you are. So that's interesting yourself. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, Ronke, one of the areas we traumatize a child is beating. You have written a book on this beating issue. And even after reading your book, some parents still believe they must still beat. They will quote, spare the rod, and spoil the child. The Bible says you must beat your child. Even though I've been asking for anybody that was beaten in the Bible, they have not shown me. What do you think we need to, what are the other ways of correcting a child? Especially, I don't even think any African child deserves to be beaten with the Trump. The environment is already beating a child. The school is beating him now. So what are the other alternatives, and where can they get that your book for those who are listening to us today? What are the other ways you can actually, because the goal of discipline is correction, right? So I don't know how pain can correct a behavior, So what are the other ways, maybe 2 or 3 ways that parents who are bent on beating, they beat me, I must beat. They will even brag that I've become good. And I'm wondering, how good are you? Who have you become? They are not even aware that they are nowhere close to who they are capable of becoming. They don't know the opportunity cost of the beating that they were subjected to. So what are the other options available? Maybe 2 or 3. I know you have 101 from that book, and Kenny doesn't even feature at all, So what can parents practically do, especially Nigerian parents who are bent on beating and they are listening to us today?
Okay, so I will start with the Nigerian parents, African parents, any parents that says that the rod is in the Bible. That one, I always want to talk about it. Because that rod that you choose, because we know when they say someone selectively chooses something, they'll choose that scripture. They will not choose the one that says the rod and the staff, they comfort me. They will not choose that one. They will not say it's a rod of correction or a rod of miracles. They don't want that one. I always refer them to the book of Deuteronomy. In the book of Deuteronomy, it says a rebellious child should be stoned to death. I repeat, in the book of Deuteronomy, a rebellious child should be stoned to death. So, should we start stoning our children to death? You want to beat your child, then carry stone, kill your child. Because it says when you corrected the child doesn't listen. You reported somebody, child doesn't listen. The next thing, put him out, and all of you start stoning the child. Yes. If you're playing, go and check Deuteronomy tonight. Read between 24 and chapter 24 and 27. You will find it there. So that was first. Is a hyperbole. It's not something that you have to do. There are other ways. Even Jesus said, bring the children unto me. He never threatened those children with violence. Because I know the spiritual people will be saying this, they want to beat children. Now, other ways of working with our children to ensure that already in your mind that they beat me when I was small and I turned out all right. If that is your mentality, don't bother. You will continue doing it. First of all, it starts with a mindset. Have an open mind that you're not going to beat. You want to even try. What is rubbish Aronke is saying? Let me be in groups, and we go through it over a couple of weeks and months, and then you see that they are able to remove that behavior from their parenting. So it is possible, but it starts with a decision. It starts with a parenting, a positive mindset, and a belief that you can do it. So start with that one. So another thing is that you must know that those children are not even your own children. You are just a custodian. I don't know if anybody can still hear me. I can just see black, but I turn black now. If you can hear me,
we can hear you.
Let me know.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
So it doesn't. Are you there? Anybody there? Amina?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
I was the only one on the screen. After a while, I was like, ooh, I'm afraid. Okay. So where was I? Those children don't belong to you, custodians, for a period of time. And we are not to control them. The reason why people want to beat children is because they want control. And you yourself don't want to be controlled, but you want to control a child. Now, when you have a child, when you want to have a child, even before you have a child, because when we're talking about children just now, one of the things is that people are having children and are not ready to have. So that's already frustrating a lot of people. They will tell you to go and be fruitful and multiply. You don't have money to look after them, send them to school and all this stuff. You don't have to have children. I keep telling people, it's not by force to have children. You say, oh, it's selfish not to have children. You are selfish if you have children that you can't look after. That is it. So you don't have to have children. Nothing will happen to you. There are many children out there that you can adopt. You don't have to have children. It's not by force. Nothing will happen. We have to stop and change all these things that our beliefs that we have. Now, understanding the personality child of a child. Personality type of a child. So Persona has a lot of material when it comes to personality assessment for children. If you understand, even just a normal personality, just even look at traits. Just start with traits in your house. Put pen to paper. What are the traits that my child has? What are the ways that my child behaves? Because we must run our parenting like we're running our business. We must run it seriously. Because a lot of people will say, you have a planner for your child. They don't have a planner for their children. They don't even, what's that? They just think every day you just move from day to day. No. So that you can track the progress, what has changed. Now, what is that personality type of your child? What does the child like? Some people say, oh, put the child in the naughty corner. I don't recommend naughty corner. Because some children are creative. The minute you put them in one corner, that naughty corner will turn to something amazing. They want to be there. So naughty corner does not work for everybody. But if you know the personality of your child, the child is very social and wants to be the life of the party, and you're telling the child you're not going to go to that party, that will hit that child more than the one that actually even wants to stay at home and you're saying, stay in your room. That one, thank God, I couldn't want to go to that party before. You know, so you must know your child to be able to apply the right treatment. You can't say because everybody is saying not corner or everybody is saying go and write lines. Some children love writing lines. If you give me lines to write, if you see what will come out of it, I've learned, I will just make it awesome for you. So giving me lines is not punishment for me, because it's what I love to do, to write. I people that know me know I write daily. So giving me writing is not punishment for me. But what is punishment for me? I'm someone that I love support, I love gifts. Take it away from me. Maybe you are hitting me. Find out what it is about your child. Take away those things little by little and see the effects on your child. Then you model a behavior. You give instructions. You can't say to a child, you start beating the child and the child doesn't understand what is going on. I put my hand in fire, you are beating me. But you haven't told me that this fire is gonna hurt. You haven't explained to me. You haven't done anything. You just are beating me. I didn't know now. I didn't know that fire could burn. You know, that's a simple example. But you get my drift. We must make sure that we have the guide, a rule. So you go and start your business. People come, you recruit, you give them a handbook, a manual, you tell them this is what you should do. Even little children, you keep telling them, don't do this. Remove the things that you know that okay, you put a child in the living room and you put all sorts of things there and you don't want them to break it. Forgetting that play is the work of a child. The child will touch, they're explorers, they want to feel, and then you start beating the child. Oftentimes, I always believe that a lot of parents are actually they have mental health issues because there's no way that you will put a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old in an environment where there's glass or maybe there are things, they will touch it. Then you start beating them for touching it. What should they do? Sit down nicely and be reading newspaper. What should they do? So sometimes we must check ourselves before we wreck ourselves. So to parent a child, not even how you should discipline the child, how you should discipline your own self. How do you learn to be a parent? What have you learned? How many books do you have? How many courses have you attended? I've attended too many, I can't even count. And in my inbox now, I still have some that I want to go through that I bought years ago. It's a lifelong journey. So even before we start with the child, we start with ourselves. Because some of us are carrying shadows, some of us are carrying trauma that we're talking about right now. And then the minute anything happens that resembles anything from our past, we take that of that child. We want to beat that child because because of what happened. Some people is even paranoia. Maybe they were abused as a child, or maybe they saw something as a child, and then your child goes out to the neighborhood. Who touched you? Who touched you? Did your mom? Did it? They're already paranoid because of their own experiences. So they want to hit, they want to shout. It's you need to deal with. So in the book, I start with you as a parent. Start with you. Because if you're messed up, you will mess up your child.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Where can they get that book, Ronke?
Oh, you can get it ronkeposh.com, 101 tips, ronkeposh.com/101 tips. And then you get it, you can pay there. And it's an ebook, you download it straight, you get into your mailbox. So that's easy peasy, lemon squeezy, or just send me a DM.
ronkeposh.com/101 tips. Please go get that book right now. Unfortunately, our time is fast spent and our host just stepped in. Evan, you want to say you want to say something? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you, Evan. Now that we can see you, we can't even hear you. Okay. We still can't hear you. Anyway, Amina, your final word in 1 minute before we go. What's your final word to parents?
Yeah, so the fun, what I want to say is, interestingly, I also have a program tomorrow dealing with this spread the word that we just talked about. It's going to be on Zoom. If you're interested, I can still send you the link. It's absolutely free. But one of the things I just want us to say is,
where can they get it? Where can they get the program? Where can they get it?
Okay, the link to the program is basically www.bits.my/STR syndrome. I can send you, just reach out to me and I'll send you the Zoom link immediately. Okay, because you've already sent so. Yeah, just reach out to me and send you the Zoom link. It's going to be very power packed. But for us listening, this is not a time for us to assume that everything will get back to normal because we are sweeping it under the carpet or pretending that it is fine. Things are not okay, and that is where we need to start from. How do we get it back to being okay? Talk to yourself. How are you healing? Have you actually healed? If you haven't spoken to a professional in the last couple of weeks, you may need to. If you find that you've actually been sleeping too much or sleeping too little, eating too much or eating too little, having dizzy spells, sweating unnecessarily, you may be actually suffering from acute stress disorder, which would need you to actually talk to someone about it so that you can, before it extends into post-traumatic stress disorder. And you should understand that what you're feeling is totally human. And if you don't heal, you can't help your child to heal. That is the bottom line.
Thank you very much, Amina. Adeshola from the UK says, kudos team. This is timely message. Run diluted truth by Ronke Posh. Ronke Posh is not normal. Loving you, Elijah, as well. I really wish this message will be translated into Pidgin and other local dialects, then heard on the radio stations. God bless you all. Thank you very much, inshallah. We will be with you in the other side shortly. Okay. Vicky Omoni is saying children are products of nature and nurture. Parents should stop focusing on grades. Thank you everyone for joining the show today. We'll be back next month. And this is from Center for Sex Education and Family Life. It's our not-for-profit where we reach out to parents, reach out to the community, and create solutions for the world. Most of the things we do there is pro bono. And we want to thank our resource persons. I mean, Ronke Posh, our energy is contagious. Thank you, Ronke, for always being available for us every time we call on you. I mean, thank you so much. Ebu, our host, who has done such sign language all through. We want to thank you as well. And to the emergency host of this show, I want to thank myself for joining you. Okay, thank you, everyone. We will see you some other time. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Bye.